My fiancée said, "I'm exposing your affair at my bridal shower today. Everyone will know what you did." I'd never cheated. I responded, "That'll be interesting." Then I showed up with my phone records, GPS history, and security footage from every place she claimed I was. When she made the announcement and I played the evidence on the venue's TV screen in front of 50 guests, she canceled the wedding. That's the short version. The real story is longer, colder, and I was in the room for all of it. Before we continue, we ask you to hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We would like to get to know our audience better. My name is Garrett Collins. People call me Harry, a nickname from grad school that stuck because I kept my hair too long and someone said I looked like a British wizard. I'm 35, assistant professor of mathematics at a university you'd recognize if I named it. I teach probability theory, optimization, and a seminar on data ethics that 12 students take every spring because it sounds easier than real analysis. It isn't. I'm methodical. I like problems with clean solutions. I don't yell. When something breaks, I collect data first and act second. That's why when Grace Holloway, my fiancée of 8 months, texted me at 6:43 on a Thursday morning with her threat, I didn't panic. I read it twice, poured coffee, and started building a data set. Grace was 30, a model with Stenson Models, a mid-tier agency in the city. She wasn't Vogue cover famous, but she worked steadily. Catalog shoots, local fashion week, corporate events. She had the kind of face that photographed well under soft light and the kind of personality that needed an audience. We met at a university fundraiser where she was hired to stand near the donor table and look elegant. I was there because my department chair insisted faculty show up. We talked about nothing important, exchanged numbers, and 3 weeks later we were dating. She moved into my place after 6 months. The proposal happened at a French restaurant she picked. I thought we were stable. I was wrong. Her text that Thursday was long, all caps in places, accusing me of sleeping with someone named Kelly from my department. There was no Kelly in my department. There was a Kylie in applied physics, but I'd spoken to her twice, both times about printer access. Grace's message included dates, times, locations: March 14th at Greystone Cafe, April 2nd at the Marriott downtown, April 21st at my campus office after 10 p.m. Every single claim was false. But they were specific. That meant she'd planned this. I didn't text back right away. Instead, I opened my laptop and started pulling files. My cell carrier lets you download billing records as PDFs. I grabbed 3 months. My phone keeps a location history if you let it. I exported the file. My university has keycard logs for building access. I emailed campus security with a polite records request, CCing my department chair for weight, explaining I needed documentation for a personal legal matter. They sent the file by noon. Then I went to work on the locations Grace named. Greystone Cafe has exterior cameras. The owner is a former student of mine, still friendly. I called him, explained I needed footage from mid-March, specific date, nothing dramatic, just proof I was there alone. He sent me a clip within an hour. The Marriott was harder. I didn't stay there, but Grace's own Instagram showed her at a rooftop event that night, tagged with the hotel and a dozen other people. I screenshot everything. My campus office has a hallway camera. I filed another request. The footage showed me leaving at 8:30 p.m. on April 21st, locking the door, alone. By Friday afternoon, I had a clean timeline. Every accusation mapped to a moment I could prove otherwise. Most of the time I was on campus, at home, or at locations she herself had posted about. I cross-referenced her public stories and posts. On March 14th, while I was at Greystone Cafe grading midterms, Grace was photographed at an agency party downtown, arm around a man I didn't recognize, wearing a thin gold bracelet I'd never seen before. That bracelet kept showing up. It appeared in 7 different posts over 2 months, always on her left wrist, always at events connected to Stenson Models. It never showed up in photos at home or with me. I reverse-searched one of the event photos using a free tool. It led to a PR agency's recap blog post from a VIP mixer in early April. The guest list was public. Grace Holloway was listed as guest of Blake Stenson, agency director. Blake Stenson. I'd met him once briefly at a dinner Grace insisted we attend. He was 36, confident in the aggressive way men get when they are used to being the most important person in a room. He ran the agency Grace worked for. He wore expensive suits and smiled with too many teeth. Grace said he was brilliant at networking. I thought he was a narcissist with a business card. Now I was looking at a pattern. Grace had accused me of cheating on specific nights. On those nights, I was provably alone or on campus. On those same nights, Grace was photographed at agency events, often with Blake visible in the background or tagged in the same location minutes apart. I didn't jump to conclusions. I just kept building the file. I'm a probabilist. I know the difference between correlation and causation, but I also know when the coincidences stop being coincidental. Grace's bridal shower was scheduled for Sunday, 2 days away. She'd booked a venue called The Laureate, a renovated event space with Edison bulbs, exposed brick, and a projector screen for slideshows. She'd invited 50 people: models, friends from the agency, 2 college roommates, her mother's sister, a lifestyle journalist named Jenna Brooks who wrote fluff pieces for a local magazine. Grace had mentioned wanting a low-key celebration. That meant mimosas, a flower wall for photos, and catered finger food that cost $40 a person. She'd also booked a slot for a surprise thank you video to play during the event. I knew because I handled the deposit payment. The venue coordinator, a tired woman named Cassidy, emailed me the receipt and mentioned they had an HDMI setup and a backup wireless feed if anyone wanted to connect from a tablet. I called Cassidy Friday evening. I explained that I wanted to add a short slideshow during the event, no more than 5 minutes, as a surprise for Grace. I offered to pay for the slot separately. She said that was fine. Venue policy allowed it as long as it was cleared 72 hours ahead, and I provided my own media. I sent her $50 via the payment link. She confirmed my access and gave me the AV Tech's contact in case I needed a walkthrough. Saturday, I compiled everything into a single presentation file. No fancy transitions, no music, just timestamps, documents, and video clips arranged in chronological order. I labeled each one clearly: carrier call log, GPS timeline export, campus keycard access, Greystone Cafe exterior footage, lecture hall stream screenshot, Marriott rooftop event with Grace's tagged post. Every piece showed where I was, and by extension, where I wasn't. I didn't add commentary. The data spoke for itself. I also started digging deeper into Blake's public presence. His LinkedIn showed a history of rapid career moves. He'd started as a talent scout, moved into management, took over Stenson Models 5 years ago. The agency's social media was full of carefully curated images, professional shoots, behind-the-scenes content, and a lot of photos featuring Blake himself, always positioned as the mentor, the visionary, the man who discovered talent. But when I looked at the comments on older posts, I found patterns. Models who'd left the agency rarely spoke well of their time there. Some deleted their comments after posting. Others used carefully neutral language. One former model, whose account was still public, had written under a photo from 2 years back: "Great opportunities if you're willing to play the game." The comment had 63 likes and no replies from the agency. I screenshot it. Then I went through the list of people who'd liked that comment. 3 of them were currently signed with Stenson Models, 2 had left. I checked the profiles of the ones who'd left. Both had moved to smaller agencies and seemed to be working less frequently. One had posted a vague statement about choosing mental health over career advancement. The other had gone private. "I'm not an investigator, I'm a math professor." But data analysis is data analysis, whether you're working with probability distributions or social media patterns. And the pattern here was clear. Blake Stenson's agency had a culture problem, and Grace had been positioned at the center of it. Saturday night, Grace came home late, smelling like wine and perfume. She said the pre-shower dinner with her bridesmaids ran long. She kissed me on the cheek and went to bed. I stayed up and added one more slide to the deck. It was a single sentence: "Let's check the timestamps." I also prepared a backup plan. I saved the entire presentation to 3 separate drives, uploaded a copy to a cloud service, and sent an encrypted version to my personal email. I'd learned in grad school that you never trust a single point of failure. If someone tried to delete my files or block my access to the venue equipment, I'd still have options. Sunday morning, she left early to get ready at the venue. I dressed in a button-down and slacks, put the presentation file on a USB drive, and backed it up on my phone and tablet and drove to the Laureate. The event space was full when I arrived. 50 women and a handful of men stood around high-top tables, holding champagne flutes and tiny plates. A flower wall spelled out Grace's Day in blush-toned roses. Someone had set up a photo booth. Music played from hidden speakers, something upbeat and forgettable. Grace saw me immediately. She looked perfect. Hair in loose waves, makeup precise, wearing a white sundress that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. She smiled, the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes, and walked toward me with a microphone in her hand. She didn't greet me. She turned to the crowd and raised the mic. "Can I have everyone's attention?" Her voice carried over the music. Conversation stopped, faces turned. "I want to thank you all for being here today. This was supposed to be a celebration, but I've realized I need to be honest with all of you about something." I stayed near the AV table. Cassidy, the venue coordinator, stood beside the equipment, looking confused but professional. I'd briefed her earlier that I might need to use my time slot during the event, and she'd nodded like she'd seen stranger requests. Grace continued. The man I was going to marry has been lying to me for months. Sir, he's been having an affair. Her voice cracked in exactly the right place, the kind of calculated emotion you'd see in a commercial audition. A few people gasped. Phones came out. I have proof. Dates, places, times. He thought I wouldn't find out. But I did. She turned and looked directly at me. Garrett, I loved you, and you broke my heart. The room went silent. Every eye landed on me. I could feel the weight of their judgment, the assumptions forming, the story they thought they already knew. I walked to the AV table, pulled the USB drive from my pocket, and handed it to Cassidy. I paid for a 5-minute slot, I said quietly. Can you load this, please? Cassidy blinked, looked at Grace, then back at me. Now? Yes. Grace's expression flickered. Confusion, then something close to panic. What are you doing? Checking the timestamps, I said. Cassidy plugged in the drive. The screen behind Grace lit up. The first slide appeared. It was a call log from my carrier, March 14th, highlighted in yellow. The timestamp showed me on a 42-minute call with my department chair at the exact time Grace claimed I was meeting someone at Greystone Cafe. The call detail included the number, the duration, and a note that it was a voice call, not text. The second slide was GPS data from my phone, exported as a map with pinpoint accuracy. It showed my location at Greystone Cafe from 2:15 p.m. to 4:38 p.m., March 14th. Next to it was my credit card receipt for a single black coffee, timestamped 2:21 p.m., transaction ID visible. The third slide was security footage, grainy but clear enough. Me, sitting at a corner table by the window, laptop open, red pen in hand, grading a stack of papers. Alone. The timestamp burned in the corner of the frame. March 14th, 2:47 p.m. Grace stepped toward the screen. This is insane. Turn it off. Not yet, I said. The fourth slide showed the Marriott rooftop event. Not me at the hotel, Grace at the hotel. Her own Instagram post, time-stamped April 2nd, 9:47 p.m. Location tagged, smiling in a group photo with 8 other people. Blake Stenson stood directly behind her, his hand resting on her shoulder. My GPS data on the same screen showed me at home, 23 minutes away, logged into my university's grading portal at 9:52 p.m. A woman near the front, one of Grace's college friends, whispered loudly enough for others to hear. Wait, that's the night she said he was at the Marriott. The fifth slide was campus footage. Hallway camera, 3rd floor of the mathematics building. April 21st, 8:32 p.m. The video showed me locking my office door, testing the handle twice out of habit, then walking toward the stairwell. Alone. Grace's accusation claimed I was with someone in that office after 10 p.m. The footage didn't lie. The room had gone completely quiet. No more whispers, no more gasps. Just the sound of the air conditioning and the faint hum of the projector. I watched faces shift from confusion to understanding, then to something harder. Anger, maybe, or disgust. Phones that had been filming Grace now swung toward the screen, capturing the evidence, the timestamps, the unraveling of her story. Grace's voice came out shrill, desperate. You can fake footage. You can fake anything. Check the metadata, I said. Call my carrier and request verification. Contact campus security, visit Greystone Cafe, and ask for their archive. It's all real. It's all documented. And it's all time-stamped to the exact moments you claimed I was cheating. The screen cycled to a summary slide. A table with 3 columns. Her accusation, my location, supporting evidence. 9 rows, 9 accusations, 9 alibis, 0 overlap, 0 ambiguity. Someone in the back, a man I didn't recognize, said, "Oh my God." Grace dropped the microphone. It hit the floor with a sharp feedback whine that made several people wince. She turned, looking for support, but the faces staring back at her had changed. Her maid of honor, a model named Simone, shook her head slowly and set down her champagne glass with a deliberate clink. One of Grace's aunts, a woman in her 60s wearing pearls, stood up and walked toward the exit without a word. Grace's voice was barely a whisper now, but the room was so quiet that everyone heard it. This isn't how this was supposed to go. No, I agreed. It wasn't. She looked at me, face starting to crumble, makeup still perfect, but her eyes betraying something close to fear. I'm calling off the wedding. Already did, I said. You just made it public. That was phase 1. My innocence. What comes next is your story. Her face went white. What are you talking about? I picked up the tablet from the AV table and tapped the screen. A new slide appeared on the projector. This one had a title in plain text, Timeline Analysis, Networking and Proximity. Grace lunged for the projector. Two of her friends, both models in tight dresses and heels, moved toward the AV table like they were going to yank the cables. Cassidy stepped in front of them, arms crossed, her expression shifting from professional neutrality to something colder. "He paid for the slot," Cassidy said flatly. "Venue policy. And we have a backup wireless feed running from his tablet. You touch the equipment, you're removed from the premises. That's not a threat. That's protocol." The two friends froze. One looked at Grace for guidance. Grace had no guidance to give. The screen stayed live. The door opened. Blake Stenson walked in through the main entrance, fashionably late, wearing a linen blazer over a black shirt, sunglasses pushed up on his head. He was grinning, the kind of easy confidence that comes from being used to walking into rooms and owning them. He noticed the crowd first, then the screen, and finally Grace, standing pale and motionless by the flower wall. His grin faded, then disappeared altogether. "Blake," I said, my voice carrying across the room. "Perfect timing." Blake Stenson stopped 3 steps inside the room, his expensive loafers making no sound on the polished concrete floor. His eyes moved from the screen to Grace to me, calculating fast. He didn't ask what was happening. The screen behind Grace told the story better than words could. I stayed near the AV table, tablet in hand, calm. "We're doing a short case study," I said. "Truth in advertising. You're in marketing and talent management. You'll appreciate the methodology." He forced a smile, the kind salespeople use when they're cornered but still hoping to pivot. "Garrett, right? Look, I don't know what's going on here, but maybe this is something we should discuss privately. No need to involve everyone." "Everything I'm showing is public record or my own personal data," I said. "Nothing hacked, nothing stolen, nothing private that wasn't already shared with the world. Just facts, timestamps, and publicly available images. All legal, all verifiable." I tapped the tablet. The screen changed. The new slide was titled Public Timeline, March through May. It displayed a grid, clean and simple. Dates on the left. Locations and events on the right. Each entry included a small screenshot of an Instagram story or post, complete with visible timestamps, location tags, and captions. Everything pulled from Grace's public account, the one with 4,000 followers that she never set to private. March 14th, 9:53 p.m. Agency party, downtown venue called The Loft. Grace in a black cocktail dress, holding a martini glass, smiling at the camera. Blake visible in the background, talking to a photographer, his hand gesturing broadly. The location tag was clear. The Loft, downtown. March 29th, 11:38 p.m. VIP lounge event at a place called Crimson. Grace and 3 other models sitting on a velvet couch, all of them wearing the same thin gold bracelet on their left wrists. The caption read, "Agency fam, late nights and good energy." Blake was tagged in the post. April 2nd, 9:47 p.m. Marriott rooftop. Grace standing next to Blake, both of them in formal attire, arms around each other's shoulders, smiling like they just closed a deal. That was the night she claimed I was at the Marriott with someone else. My alibi showed me at home. April 15th, 8:15 p.m. Spring showcase at a gallery opening. Grace's Instagram story showed her clinking champagne glasses with someone off camera. The reflection in the glass behind her clearly showed Blake's profile, his distinctive jawline and slicked back hair unmistakable. I let the slide sit there. No narration, no commentary, just the data. The room stayed silent. Phones were up, recording everything, but the crowd had gone still in that particular way people do when they realize they're witnessing something they'll talk about for years. Blake cleared his throat, trying to regain control. "Those are work events. Grace is one of our top talents. Of course we attend the same industry functions. That's how this business works. Networking is part of the job." "Absolutely," I said, nodding like I agreed with him completely. That's exactly what I thought too. Professional overlap, standard industry practice. So I wanted to verify that interpretation. I checked the guest lists. I tapped the tablet. Next slide. A screenshot from a PR agency's public blog post, the kind of content designed to generate buzz and show off their events. The post was titled VIP Mixer Highlights, April Edition. Below the images was a list of attendees, formatted neatly in alphabetical order. Grace Holloway appeared halfway down, her name followed by a parenthetical note. Guest of Blake Stenson, Director, Stenson Models. Another screenshot appeared beside it. A different event from late March, this time from a fashion blog that covered local scene events. The recap included another guest list. Same note next to Grace's name, Grace Holloway, courtesy of Blake Stenson. I looked directly at Blake. You didn't bring her as a model on your agency roster. You brought her as your personal guest. There's a distinction there. Models attend as professionals. Personal guests attend because someone with access wants them there. His jaw tightened, the muscles working under his skin. She's one of our best. I bring top clients and top talent to networking events. It's strategic. It's my job to position our people in the right rooms. Sure, let's check the timing. I tapped the tablet again. A new slide appeared, split-screen format. On the left side, my GPS data and phone call logs, displayed as a clean timeline with color-coded blocks. Green for on-campus, blue for home, yellow for other verified locations. Every evening hour from March through April was accounted for. On the right side, Grace's public social media posts from those exact same time windows, arranged chronologically. Each post showed her at a different venue across the city, always in the evening, always dressed for an event. Below each timestamp was a notation. Agency event, and either Blake Stenson tagged or Blake Stenson visible in image. March 14th, 7 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. I was grading papers at Greystone Cafe, then drove home. GPS showed the route. Grace was at the loft with Blake, posted at 9:53 p.m. April 2nd, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. I was home, logged into the university system, submitted midterm grades at 9:34 p.m. Grace was on the Marriott rooftop with Blake, posted at 9:47 p.m. April 21st, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. I was in my office until 8:32 p.m., then home by 9:15 p.m., verified by campus cameras and my building's keycard entry log. Grace posted an Instagram story at 9:55 p.m. from a downtown lounge called Velvet Room. Blake's hand was visible in the frame, holding a whiskey glass, his watch catching the light. I let the data breathe. The room was so quiet I could hear someone's phone buzzing with incoming texts. A woman near the back, maybe 30, wearing a leather jacket, said under her breath, "Jesus Christ!" Blake stepped forward, his voice harder now, the friendly veneer cracking. "This is harassment. You're taking innocent social media posts and twisting them into some kind of conspiracy. This is defamation." "I'm not twisting anything," I said. "I'm displaying what's already public. You and Grace are both adults. You can attend whatever events you want, whenever you want. I'm simply pointing out a pattern. Every single night Grace accused me of infidelity, I was provably somewhere else, alone, doing exactly what a professor does. Grading, teaching, working, and on those exact same nights, she was provably with you." Grace made a sound, a choked whimper that might have been the start of a word. "Stop it. Just stop." "Not yet," I said. Two of her friends, the same models who'd tried to rush the AV table earlier, moved forward again. One of them, a tall blonde in a silver dress, reached for the power cable. Cassidy didn't even blink. She stepped directly into the woman's path. "Backup feed is live and wireless," Cassidy said, her voice carrying the kind of authority that comes from years of managing drunk wedding parties and bridezillas. "You cut the cable. It keeps streaming from his tablet. You touch any of my equipment, I call security, and you're escorted out. Your choice." The blonde looked at Grace, waiting for instructions. Grace couldn't even meet her eyes. She just shook her head, barely perceptible. The two friends backed off, but their expressions had shifted. They weren't defending Grace anymore. They were watching her like everyone else. I tapped the tablet. The screen shifted to a new image, a close-up photograph pulled from a venue's public event portfolio. It showed Grace and Blake standing together at what looked like a private lounge, all low lighting and leather furniture. Grace's hand was on Blake's chest, both of them laughing, caught mid-conversation. The timestamp in the corner read April 9th, 11:22 p.m. I zoomed in on a specific detail. Grace's left wrist. The gold bracelet, delicate and distinctive, catching the ambient light. "This bracelet," I said, addressing the room now, not just Blake. I noticed it appears in multiple photos over a 2-month period, always at agency events, never in photos taken at home, never in pictures with me. I ran a reverse image search on it, thinking maybe it was commercially available, something I could buy her as a gift. It's not. It doesn't appear in any jewelry retailer databases. It's custom. A woman in the crowd spoke up, older, maybe 50, wearing an expensive blazer and the kind of confident posture that suggested she knew the industry well. "That's a director's gift. Blake commissions them from a jeweler in Brooklyn. He gives them to top-tier talent only, girls who are being positioned for major campaigns. Everyone in the modeling world knows what that bracelet means." Blake turned sharply, glaring at her. "Diane, stay out of this." Diane didn't flinch. She took a sip of her champagne and stared right back at him. "Why?" "It's true. You've been doing it for years. The bracelet means you're investing in someone's career personally. Everyone knows." I nodded slowly, letting that sink in for the crowd. So Grace was top tier, important enough to receive custom jewelry, important enough to be listed as your personal guest at exclusive events, important enough to be photographed with your hand on her back at 11 p.m. while I was at home alone, grading calculus exams. Blake's voice went cold, all pretense of friendliness gone. You're implying something you can't prove. Proximity isn't evidence of anything. I'm not implying anything, I said. I'm showing proximity, timing, and patterns. What people conclude from that is their own business. I'm just presenting the data. I tapped the tablet again. Another slide appeared. This one a collage of venue receipts and tagged locations, all pulled from Grace's public posts. Over the span of 2 months, she'd posted photos from 5 different high-end restaurants and lounges. Beside each photo, I'd added a timestamp and a note indicating my own location at that exact moment, verified by GPS, call logs, or campus access records. Every single time Grace was at a high-end venue late at night, I was somewhere else, documented and provable. And every single time, Blake was tagged in the same location or visible in her photos, usually within minutes of her own posts. A younger man in the crowd, wearing a photographer's vest with multiple pockets, spoke up. That restaurant in the March 23rd post, that's Maestro's. Blake rented out the back room that whole week for private client meetings. I shot the spring lookbook there. Blake spun toward him. Marco, shut your mouth. Marco raised both hands defensively. I'm just saying what I know, man. I was there. Grace's face was red now, blotchy and streaked with tears that were ruining her carefully applied makeup. Mascara ran in thin black lines down her cheeks. You're destroying me, in front of everyone. You're destroying my life. You tried to destroy mine first, I said, keeping my voice level. In this exact room, in front of these exact people. You stood up here with a microphone and accused me of betraying you, knowing it was a lie. I'm just returning the favor. The difference is, I'm using facts. The main door opened again, and 3 people stepped in. I recognized Jenna Brooks immediately, the lifestyle journalist who wrote for local magazines and blogs, the kind of content that blurred the line between reporting and advertising. She was 29, sharp-eyed, always scanning for a story. Following her were 2 women I didn't recognize. One was young, early 20s, with high cheekbones and dark hair pulled into a tight bun. She had the look of a model, thin and angular, but her eyes were nervous, darting around the room like she wasn't sure she should be there. The other woman was older, late 40s, with the same bone structure and a protective hand resting on the younger woman's shoulder. Jenna saw the screen first, saw the frozen image of Grace and Blake, saw the crowd standing in tense silence. Her eyes went wide. Did we miss it? You're just in time, I said. Grace pointed at Jenna, her hand shaking. Get out. This is my event. You're not welcome here. I was invited, Jenna said calmly. You sent me an invitation 3 weeks ago, and I brought guests like the invitation said I could. This is Tessa Monroe, and her mother, Elaine. Tessa, the younger woman, stepped forward. Her hands were folded in front of her, fingers laced together tightly. She looked at Blake first, and something flickered across her face. Recognition, maybe, or old fear. Then she looked at Grace, then at the crowd of models and industry people watching her. Her voice came out quiet but clear, the kind of clarity that cuts through noise. I signed with Stenson Models 14 months ago. I'd just moved to the city. I was 21. After my first campaign, a small commercial shoot for a skincare brand, Blake called me into his office. He said I had potential. He said the girls who made it in this industry understood that the real work happened outside the studio. The room went completely silent. Not a glass clinked. Not a shoe scraped the floor. Tessa continued, her voice steady now. He asked me to stay late for notes on my portfolio. Then he started inviting me to dinners. Private dinners, not the big agency events. Just him and maybe 1 or 2 clients. He said the best models made time for extra coaching. He said if I wanted the good bookings, the magazine covers, the fashion week slots, I needed to be available. He never said what for, exactly, but the implication was clear. Elaine, her mother, squeezed Tessa's shoulder. Tessa glanced at her, drew a breath, and kept going. I went to 2 of those dinners. He never touched me. I want to be clear about that. There was no physical assault. But the way he talked, the way he looked at me, the way he made it clear that my career trajectory depended on saying yes to invitations that didn't feel like work, it was pressure. Constant, suffocating pressure. I felt like I was drowning, and no one else in the agency seemed to notice or care. Blake's face had gone from red to pale. His hands were clenched into fists at his sides. That's a lie. You're lying. You left the agency because you weren't committed to the work. You missed castings. You showed up late. I left because I was 21 years old and terrified, Tessa said, her voice rising slightly. I left because I started having panic attacks before meetings with you. I left because I saw how it worked. The girls who played along, the ones who accepted the late-night invitations and wore the bracelet and got listed as your personal guests, they got the campaigns, the editorial spreads, the brand partnerships. The rest of us got catalog work and corporate headshots until we gave up or aged out. Elaine stepped forward, standing beside her daughter. We're not filing charges. We talked to a lawyer. There's nothing illegal about favoritism or pressure or making someone feel uncomfortable, but we wanted people to know. Tessa's not the only one. There are others. Girls who left the agency and didn't say why, girls who are still there and too scared to speak up because they need the work. Jenna looked at me, her expression unreadable. I didn't know you were going to do this today, but when Tessa reached out to me last week and told me her story, and then I got the invitation to Grace's shower, the timing felt right. Grace's maid of honor, Simone, turned slowly and stared at Grace. Her voice was cold. You got your bracelet 8 months ago, right after you started seeing Garrett. I remember because you posted about it. You called it a career milestone. Grace opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Her eyes darted from Simone to Blake to me, looking for an exit that didn't exist. I tapped the tablet one more time. The screen went black for a moment, a pause that made everyone lean forward slightly. Then it flashed back to life with a new image. It was a photograph, high resolution and professionally lit, pulled from a licensed event recap on a venue's public website. I'd found it buried in an online gallery under Spring Gala highlights. The image showed a service stairwell, the kind of utilitarian space that venues don't usually photograph, dimly lit by an exit sign. The timestamp in the corner read April 21st, 10:38 p.m. In the photograph, Grace and Blake were kissing, not a friendly peck, not an accidental brush of lips, a full, unmistakable, hands-on-each-other kiss. The room exploded. Voices overlapped, some shouting, some gasping. Someone's champagne glass hit the floor and shattered. A chair scraped loudly as someone stood up too fast. Blake moved toward the projector, his face twisted with rage. 2 men in dark shirts stepped into his path. Venue security, already positioned near the equipment because Cassidy had quietly called them earlier when the tension started rising. Don't touch the equipment, one of the security guards said, his voice calm but firm. He was a big guy, ex-military posture, the kind of presence that stops fights before they start. Blake stopped inches from him, fists still clenched. He turned and glared at me. Where did you get that photo? That's private property. That's theft. Public event recap, I said, posted on the venue's website under their media gallery. Licensed photos from their official photographer, available for anyone to view. The venue hosts events and posts highlights to attract future clients. I didn't hack anything. I didn't steal anything. I didn't even need to create an account. I just typed the venue name and the date into a search engine and scrolled through their public gallery until I found it. Grace was sobbing now, full body shaking, hands covering her face. Her friends had stepped back, creating a visible gap around her near the flower wall. No one moved to comfort her. No one offered a tissue or a reassuring word. They just watched. Blake pointed at me, his voice shaking with anger. You think you've won something here? You think this makes you the good guy? You've just made yourself an enemy. You have no idea who you're messing with. I've made a point, I said. You built your career on image management and optics. You understand how narratives work, how perception shapes reality. I'm just showing people what the reality actually looks like when you strip away the branding and check the timestamps. You're the director. You control access, opportunity, and who gets the bracelet. Grace wanted that access. She played the game. And when it was time to end things with me, she decided to control the narrative by accusing me first. Except she didn't count on me bringing receipts. Blake stared at me for another long moment, his face a mask of barely controlled fury. Then he turned and walked toward the exit, his expensive shoes clicking on the floor. No one stopped him. No one said goodbye. The door slammed behind him, and the sound echoed through the silent room. But I still wasn't finished. The room hadn't settled. Conversations were breaking out in clusters, phones recording, people heading for exits. Grace stood near the flower wall, isolated, makeup streaked, staring at nothing. I wasn't done. I tapped the tablet. The screen lit up with a new slide. Why today? Grace's head lifted. Her eyes found mine. I saw the moment she understood what was coming. You didn't discover an affair, I said. You invented one. You chose to expose it here, in front of 50 witnesses, because you wanted control of the narrative before the truth about you and Blake came out. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. You needed me to look guilty in public so that when people found out about you and Blake, you'd already have sympathy locked in. The betrayed fiancé. I'd take the blame, and you'd walk away clean. That's a good story, the kind that gets magazine interviews. Grace stepped back, bumping the flower wall. Rose petals scattered. That's not what happened. The problem is you're not the only one who understands narrative control. I teach a seminar on how information gets weaponized. You thought you were playing chess. I've been teaching chess theory for 6 years. I tapped the screen. A video file loaded. Phone footage, poor lighting. I pressed play. Grace's voice. So I'll just call him out in front of everyone? At the shower? Another woman, off camera. Grace, that's brutal. Grace, laughing. He'll never see it coming. Even if he denies it, people will wonder. There's always doubt once the accusation is out there. Let's make him beg. The other voice. What if he has proof? Grace, dismissive. He won't. He's too trusting. He doesn't understand that perception matters more than truth. By the time he figures it out, I'll already be the victim. I'm not just pretty, I'm strategic. The video cut off. 15 seconds. The room erupted. People stepping back from Grace, phones recording her reaction. Simone walked straight to the exit without looking back. Grace's face went white. She looked at Jenna. You gave him that? That clip was in a close friend story, Jenna said. Someone sent it to me yesterday. When I saw what was happening today, I realized it wasn't a joke. It was a plan. Grace looked around desperately. No allies remained. Even her closest friends backed away. The redhead in green said quietly, Grace, what the hell did you do? Grace turned to me, voice cracking. You set me up. You wanted to humiliate me. I defended myself, I said. You tried to destroy my reputation with a public spectacle. I used the same stage to show the truth. Everything I presented is verifiable. I didn't lie. I showed people what actually happened. Grace stepped toward me, hands shaking. Garrett, please. We can fix this. No, you made choices. You had an affair. You gaslighted me. You accused me publicly of something I didn't do. You rehearsed that accusation, laughing about how I'd never see it coming. Those weren't mistakes. That was strategy. Your words. Her face crumpled. Real tears now. Ugly and desperate. I picked up the microphone, tapped it once. The room went silent. The wedding is canceled, I said clearly. Hers and mine. It's over. I set the mic down, pocketed my USB drive, and looked at Cassidy. Thank you for honoring the time slot. She nodded, stunned. You paid for it. I walked to the exit. The crowd parted. No one spoke. I heard Grace say my name once, broken, but I didn't turn around. Behind me, Simone's voice. You need to leave, Grace. Now. I pushed into bright Sunday sunlight. My car was 2 blocks away. I walked slowly, hands in pockets, breathing clean air. 2 days building a case, 5 minutes delivering it. The math worked, the logic held, the evidence was irrefutable. Grace had tried to control the narrative by striking first. She'd underestimated that I had the skills to build an airtight defense and that I'd use the same public stage to dismantle her story. In probability theory, we have expected value. Grace gambled I wouldn't fight back. She calculated wrong. I reached my car and sat before starting the engine. Through the windshield, the city continued its normal rhythm. People walking dogs, couples at brunch. None of them knew what had just happened. Oh, my phone buzzed. 37 unread messages. I didn't check them. I started the car and drove home through tree-lined streets. I'd be back at work tomorrow, teaching probability. Life would continue. Grace would rebuild from wreckage she'd created. Blake would answer questions about his practices. None of that was my responsibility. I'd defended myself with facts. I'd exposed the truth using only legal evidence. I'd walked out with my integrity intact. In mathematics, when you've proven a theorem beyond doubt, you end with 3 letters, QED, quod erat demonstrandum. That which was to be demonstrated, I demonstrated it. The wedding was canceled, the relationship was over. The case was closed, QED.